Today we are going to talk about private and public property. If you look at the first box, you can see up here that it says my house. So something like a house we can consider a private property. And that's because this is something that you bought with your money and now you own it. So let's say, for example, at your house you planted some really lovely flowers with a nice yellow smile, and you put a lot of work into it, digging, taking care of it, actually buying the plants, watering it. And one day you are inside your house looking at your lovely plants, and you see somebody and they come and they step on your plant flowers. How would you feel? Well, you would probably get very upset. And the reason is because this is your flower at your house that you spent money and time taking care of. Now let's switch. Let's take a look at the other box and let's pretend that you are at the park. And at the park, you see the same wonderful flowers with the yellow, happy smile. And you see the same person. They are also at the park. And guess what they do? That's right. They step on it. Crunch, crunch. Now, how would you feel if you saw somebody step on some flowers at the park? Well, you probably wouldn't be happy, and it wouldn't be the right thing to do, but you wouldn't get as angry as you would with the flowers at your house. And the reason is because the flowers in the park is a part of public property, and things that's in the public property is not something that you own. So therefore, you care less about it. And so today, the article that we're going to read deals with this, the rules of private and public property. Now, the story has a very simple outline. So the first part, they're going to introduce the topic. In the second part, they are going to give us information about private land or private property, and then they're going to give us additional details, and then they're going to switch, and then they're going to talk about the public land, or in the story they call it common property, and that's followed by additional details that talks more about that subtopic. So let's go ahead and take a look at this story. So we can see that in a farming village, most land is privately held except for one large field of common land where everybody may graze cattle. Okay, so let's take a look at this word graze. Graze just means to eat. So I'm going to type that here, to eat. And cattle is when you have a group of cows together, we call that cattle. And so in this first sentence, we can see that most land is privately held except for one large field of common land where everybody may graze their cattle. So the cattle on this common land, everybody's cattle is using the common land. Going on to the next sentence, on private land, the owner has incentive to limit cattle grazing. Okay, so this word incentive, that means a reason to do something. The reason in this situation to limit cattle grazing. So on private land, the owner has incentive, there's a good reason to stop grazing. And so we can kind of know that, okay, this is because from the example that we said with the flower that, okay, if you have flowers at your house, you care about them, right? And you're more careful. And so the same thing with the private land, with the owner who has cattle on his land. Moving on to number 2, if he puts too many cows out to graze, he may increase his short-term profit but depletes the field and lowers profits in the long term. Okay, so then let's take a look at this first part. Increase profit in the short term, or increase his short-term profit. Okay, in the sentence, what they mean is that if the owner puts all his cows out to graze and lets them eat all the grass that they want, like a buffet, the cattle is going to get very fat. And this is going to be good for his profit or making money, because fat cows he can sell for a lot of money. Now let's take a look at the second part. But depletes, so it uses all the resources or it becomes empty. That means depletes the field and lowers profits in the long term. Okay, so how does it lower profit in the long term? Well, if there are no more grass because all the cattle, they ate everything, the cows are now going to go hungry. They're going to be thin, and so for the long term, he won't be able to grow new grass. The cows will continuously become thinner and thinner, and so then his money or his profit is also going to become lower. Therefore, the owner has an incentive to carefully balance the number of cows and the availability of grass. Okay, so in this sentence, they're basically saying the owner is going to be careful about how many cows he's going to put on the grass. So too many cows, they're going to eat all the grass. So he has to limit that and manage that carefully. In this case, so that means, for example, individuals pursuing their self-interest are not persuaded to think of the social outcome by the invisible hand of the market. Okay, so a lot of students have trouble with this invisible hand. And so if we go back to here, and let's say I put this invisible hand, it's kind of like a invisible, or it's kind of like a guide, so some kind of force that pulls you in one direction or the other. So for example, if I see something get damaged at my house, I'm going to care about that, and so that feeling of caring is going to make me go this way, right? But at the same time, if I see the same thing at the park, the invisible hand, so this feeling, it's going to want to make me go over here on this side, and that means I really don't care if the flowers get damaged at the park because it's not my flowers, right? So the invisible hand, or this feeling, it's going to take us either in this direction or it's going to take us into this direction, depending on the land, whether if it's private and I own it, or if it's something like the park and it's public and I don't really own it. Okay, so this sentence here, on common field, however, nobody is charged for grazing. Everyone has an incentive to put cows there. And the common field soon becomes overgrazed and useless. Okay, so we can know that by the common field, and we can go back to our sentence structure so we know that, okay, they organize the story in this manner. So this first part, we know it has to be all about private land, and then the second part is going to be the common. So probably somewhere in here, and the answer is going to be here. So this can be a little bit tricky, but the reason that this part of the sentence, it does not make sense. So self-interest, individuals pursuing their self-interest are not persuaded to think of the social outcome. Well, on private land, individuals never think about the social outcome. And by the way, social outcome means people in the society or other people. So if it's my house, why am I going to think about other people? I wouldn't, unless these are people in my family. So it definitely doesn't make sense here. Now, if we plug this sentence in and we say, on the common field, however, nobody is charged for grazing. Everyone has an incentive to put cows there. So I put my cows there, you put your cows there, my friend Joe, he puts his cows there. Everyone has their cows there. And we can see that soon the field becomes overgrazed and useless. So in this case, or in this situation, everybody, me, you, my friend Joe, they are pursuing their self-interest, and they don't care about the social outcome, and that's because of the invisible hand. So if it's on public land, remember we said we're going to go on this side to the right side, and that means we don't care. And then we finally have this last sentence, property rights make all the difference. Now, going back to the park and thinking about the rule that we just mentioned about private land and caring about it, or public land and not caring about it. So if we think about that rule and we go to the park should be very dirty and very messy because nobody cares about it. But it's the opposite. If you go to the park, it looks very clean. It looks very nice. Why is that? The reason is because that's where the government comes in. They come in, they take care of it, protect it, and keep it looking nice and good so that when we go there, it looks really beautiful. And that's the key. That's why government plays such an important role in our cities.